were a bit raunchy and raucous.
We kept you on a really short leash.
Nice to be on someone's leash sometimes.
I was gonna say, with that hair, you better play an instrument. It is so rock and roll. I love it.
I think she's a they. That didn't come out right. Can you do this for, a donut?
People would do anything for a t-shirt.
That's like genius.
Hey.
All good?
Look, I have my morning head. It's 9 o'clock in the morning here.
It's 2 p.m. here. I don't know that we've ever done one this early.
No, and you know what? I think Molly's been ready though for a while. She was in makeup an hour ago.
We missed the window. She's napping again. Yeah.
So I'm co-hosting with Billie Jean King today.
Oh my God, you're such a nerd. You are such a nerd.
Is there anything gayer than your girlfriend buying you a Billie Jean King doll in Wilton Manors?
That is peak lesbianism right there.
Right there.
Peak. Oh my
Yes.
God. You need to put that on the other side of you next to that poster. No, other side. Yep.
Yes, perfect.
Oh my God.
There you go.
There it is. So you have wrangled a guest for this early morning chat session.
Yes, we have. And she's in this time zone too. She's early, like me.
That's crazy. All right, let's get Rachel Covello on.
Yes,
with
from
us
LuvHer Events
this morning. Here we go.
Okay, there we go.
Hey.
Oh my, that's
I love the background.
That's a background.
I worked with a client that was doing this like pink bus, like a speakeasy type bus. I'm like, we're just gonna go with it. That's gonna be my background for anything lesbian.
Nice. It makes me want to piece bubble gum. Oh, Rachel, lovely to have you this morning.
It's my pink pony lounge.
There you go. I like it.
That'll work.
So this is Denise, my co-host in the UK. I told you about.
Hi, Denise.
Hello there.
It's so nice to meet you. I found you through the announcement about the comedy show this weekend for the Women's Pride Week in Wilton Manors. And I was reading about what you do, and I think that it's such a really cool idea to do pop-up events for lesbians everywhere. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do and where you do it? Because I wasn't sure if it's just in Florida or if it's just wherever you pop up.
Yeah, so I wear a few different hats. One of them is the pop-up party host. We host events primarily in Florida at this point. I'd love to expand it. This is kind of like a side hustle for me. So my primary job, I run an LGBTQ travel blog and I do consulting and speaking in that area. And that I do nationally. So I'd love to think down the road we can do more pop-up events. We do both parties and comedy. I used to do more parties, but I'm kind of scaling back on my own like drinking and all that. So I've been scaling back on the party side and doing more of the comedy events. And I hope to do more as I move forward.
That's fantastic. What who are some of the comedians you've been working with?
So the comedian that actually got me into comedy was Poppy Champlin. I don't know if you've seen her before, but she's amazing.
Yes.
So she's my mentor. When COVID hit and we were all at home and I was kind of looking, I was actually really like obsessing about Mrs. Maisel. Have you guys seen Mrs. Maisel?
Yeah.
Oh my God, loved it.
So favorite show. I'm also Jewish, and so a lot of the comedy was super relatable, and I've been married a few too many times. And so like her marriage and family and Jewish, all of that kind of like resonated with me. And so so I started watching that, and then I saw that Poppy was hosting both in-person and online comedy classes. And so I started doing an online class with her and just kind of fell in love with comedy writing. And then she took a risk on me. She came here to Tampa and hosted an event at what was the Improv is now the Funny Bone, but she hosted an event here and asked me to open for her. And I had literally been on stage like twice before, very small open mic night type of stage. So I was thrown into it. I loved every aspect of it and kind of kept going from there. So I've done a few shows with Poppy. This will be my first show, really hosting my own show. So I'm excited about this and excited to bring it to Wilton Manors.
Oh, perfect spot.
Yeah, I'm going to be there. I'm going to go on Saturday night. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, fun. Okay. Lucky.
Denise, you're not going to take the trip
I'll just
across
be
the
I'll
pond.
just be here watering the house plants, you know. Yeah, no problem. My
I'll
my
take
wife,
the
my wife's
video.
away, so my wife is away for another 10 days. It's been a month, and so my sole goal in life is to keep the house plants and the cats alive. You know?
And you
Yeah,
sound
you sound like me, but with dogs. My wife never travels. I'm usually the one traveling. And so I come home and I'm just grateful that I'm not left at home. She went away for a 2 night, like a 2 night fishing trip one time. Um, Not my idea of a trip, so I stayed home, but she was like on the water for 2 days with a bunch of fishermen. I was like, that's not my world.
Oof.
But I stayed home to take care of the house, and that it was so stressful. Like she's really good at taking care of the house. I didn't realize how much work there was.
Yep. There's a lot that goes into it. You know, I do it on a regular basis, but just the her being gone, you know, it's kind of an eye opener. You know, just a few little things that she does do have added to my daily list of things to do, like giving the cats their pill. Like it's a nightmare for me.
Yeah.
Like I can't, I have to put it in the pocket. She just jams it down their throat and gets on with the day. And I'm
but
putting it
they don't let you do it probably, right? Like you've got to get it in the
they're not used to me coming at them like that, you know? So so I put it in one of those little meaty pocket things, and then I follow them around like an idiot, you know, like trying to stick it under their nose so they can smell it. And it's a nightmare. In fact, this morning my big guy spit out the steroid, and I didn't notice for like an hour that it was sitting on the floor. And so then I had to do the whole routine over again and I had to follow him upstairs and try and get him to have it. It's ridiculous. You know, it's ridiculous, but it is what it is, and we do what we do, and it works. But yeah, I'm about ready for her to be back at this point.
So you're traveling back now to like when we finish this, you're traveling back here to the East Coast?
Yeah, so I live in St. Pete, Florida. This is my busiest time of year. And my wife just had some major surgery, so everything got pushed off until this month. So literally my calendar is, I tell my wife anytime you see purple, it means I'm traveling, and it's like purple, purple, purple. I don't Should be. Yeah. So I'm heading to Lauderdale. I drive to Lauderdale today. So I'll be there hosting the comedy show. I'll be out tonight at some of the events. And then tomorrow I'll be hosting the comedy show. And then I'm sticking around for 2 more nights with my friend Jonathan, who's a quad amputee. He's an incredible human being. He's a Paralympic gold medalist. And we're working with Visit Lauderdale to create an accessibility campaign. So I do a lot of work both in the LGBTQ space as well as accessibility to help,
Fantastic.
provide tips for travelers of all shapes, sizes, and abilities.
I
So
love that's fantastic.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Is that what your travel blog is? Is your travel blog like you travel and blog about it to the places you go? And does is the coaching part of that, like to help people travel the
So I'm not a travel agent. I am a travel content creator. So my content on my platform is for the consumer. Um, Outside of that, I work with destinations and hospitality businesses to provide them guidance on how to properly market and welcome LGBTQ travelers to their businesses and destinations. So my consulting and coaching is more from the business to business side. I have travel advisors that I refer to, but that's definitely not something I do personally.
That's so needed, though. I mean, that is
Yes,
really, really
what I
neat
was thinking.
because, you know, I mean, like I don't know about you guys, but a couple of times, like we've booked in at like an LGBTQ, I don't want to say resort, but guest house, bathhouse, B&B, you know, in a certain area. And there's nothing queer about it. You know what I mean? It's like it was just something that was on their website. Like, I don't know, like, is that what we settle for? But I mean, it was just kind of like, oh, come stay with us. You won't get beat up. Or, you know what I mean? Like, it felt like there should be more to it, you know? Like,
There are some places that are just more queer than others.
yeah, yeah,
But we do travel guides with a lot of destinations. Primarily, again, it was mostly Florida. In 2020, we launched statewide, so I've had Outcoast since 2017. We went statewide in 2020, and I know that sounds strange because everything was shut down, but for us, because we live in Florida, because I live right here in St. Pete, typically destinations prior to 2020 were only marketing outside of the state to bring people into the state. But during COVID, road tripping became a huge thing. So
yeah,
it was honestly just a smart. I don't think I realized at the time how smart of a decision it was, but it was kind of like, let's pivot, let's reach out to destinations in Florida as we launch statewide and become the statewide LGBTQ travel blog. And invite destinations to host us when hotels and destinations were empty. And
yeah,
they jumped on it because double income, no kid,
yeah,
obviously that's changing, especially with the younger demographic, but for the most part, it's still a big travel spend demographic.
sure.
So that's how we launched. And then it's taken off since then. And then about a year and a half ago, especially a year ago, when Visit Florida, which is the statewide tourism bureau for Florida, they had removed their LGBT content from their platform.
Yeah.
And I reached out to NBC to maybe drop that story. And so that went viral. The story went viral. It had global news. And
Wow.
the state of Illinois reached out to me and said, "Hey, we see what you did in Florida. We want to make sure people feel welcomed in Illinois." And so now we're actually working with Illinois and some other states outside of Florida to create content. So it's
Oh,
kind of
that's fantastic because yeah, it's like you're working against the grain when it comes
Mhm.
to Florida and their don't say gay bills and their, you know,
That's true.
everything. It's like pushing
Yeah.
uphill.
We get beat up by both sides because we get pushback from our own community on why are you promoting Florida? It's not safe, etc. And the reality is like we have so many inclusive destinations just because the state politics is a certain way, it doesn't mean that there aren't places like Wilton Manors and St. Petersburg and
Yes.
Tampa and Key West and Orlando, which are all
Right.
super inclusive.
Yeah.
So, and when we start boycotting those spaces, we hurt the inclusive and
So true.
marginalized owned
100%.
communities that are like right here that need that support. So
Right.
we've seen bars be affected because people aren't showing up. So,
Yeah.
and in my opinion, nothing changes if we don't stay here and vote. So
Right.
I think we should all like go to purple destinations all over the country and stop
Yeah.
grouping in blue spaces and start voting and changing and
Yeah.
making
No, it's true. I
here.
100% agree. It's, you know, what's going on, you know, politically is destroying tourism everywhere, straight and gay. You know,
Mhm.
like I actually just this morning saw a picture that somebody posted, and it was a London to Los Angeles flight that they were on, and they took a picture, and there were 8 people on board.
Yeah.
And that just means that Europeans don't want to come to America because of what's going on. You know, like empty planes are not a thing. I travel every 3 months, London to Miami, and there's never an empty seat.
Yeah.
And my last flight, well, I had the seat next to me was empty. There was a couple rows that weren't filled, and I was like, wow, like this is, you know, like it's a difficult time. Like, I mean, kudos to you, like for championing it because it's so, like I said, it's just so needed right now. You're right. Like a lot of people are getting hurt because of it that didn't vote for the mess that they're in, you know, and that are still providing an experience that, like, you know, that we need and we feel comfortable and safe to go to. And yeah, it's brutal. It's like it's swimming upstream, you
Yeah,
know.
and I agree. If you don't stay here and promote things happening in Wilton Manors and the Keys, Key West, people, then that suffers. And there's such a huge community in Wilton Manors alone.
Yeah,
Um, where everything's happening this week. We went out Saturday night we were like a party with nowhere to go because we went too late because everything happened before 9 o'clock. So we found a couple of places but then I realized there was a big party going on at Art Frenzy. Were you there? Were you on in Wilton Manors on Saturday?
I've been in St. Pete. I was actually,
Okay.
I take that back. I was in Vegas. Speaking of destinations that are, you could feel the effect of how much slower it is. I was in Vegas this past week at a conference, speaking at a conference called eTourism, which is all about digital marketing in the tourism space. And I was speaking on amplifying marginalized communities in that space. That's part of what I do. And then I went to LA and I spent 4 nights with my dad in an Airbnb, visiting family. If someone said, "What did you do in LA?" I went to 2 cemeteries and the Ritz-Carlton for a massage. Like that was my that was my trip. But we were doing like the nostalgia visiting,
Right.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So I missed a lot of that. I came home for 4 nights, kind of caught up on some work, and then now I'm going to Lauderdale. So, and then I'm in Miami after that, and then DeLand, and then San Antonio. So my trips are kind of back to back for the next few weeks.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're going to be here for this because it's what an exciting week this has been. I didn't realize till I started looking on social media how much was going on this week. There's like something every night, Denise. There was a sold, and they're selling out.
Yeah.
There was a sold out disco line dance night last night. And I would have been there if it wasn't sold out.
I would have enjoyed that. I even have my little country shirt on today.
It's like perfect. That is so perfect.
Yes, it goes with the background too.
I think, what happens is I'm scrolling social media and I see stuff from Pride Equality, the Pride Center, and they're boasting about like all the stuff that's going on. I'm so jealous. And then, I'm like, all right, that's it. Like, get out of social media. Like, you're just making yourself sick, And then I open up my email and there's the digital version of Skirt Sofla, the girls Skirt magazine, and it's got all the women's events listed in it. And I'm like, oh my God.
Lolly and Diane are amazing what they're doing. I give Lolly and Diane such major kudos for what they're doing and like just bringing women out again in that space because I think they were there. I used to gloat that St. Pete had the largest lesbian community and it was the fastest growing because we're out a lot. We have places, although we don't have a lesbian bar anymore, we still have places where we tend to go out and hang out. Whereas when I would go to Lauderdale, especially Wilton Manors, I would see a lot of men out, but I'd never see the women. So it's nice to see that they're there. They've been a little in hiding. And so it's great to see what they're doing. We're actually going to be hosting Sapphic St. Pete in November, and I'm taking notes as I watch what's happening in Wilton Manors this week on what they're doing. We're going to be hosting some events over here in November, a whole week for queer and lesbian women. So, I know Key West already has one, so we're kind of taking over the state of Florida. Women are going to take over.
Awesome.
It's so true. Yeah, one of my besties lives in St. Pete, and they are always out. Like her and her wife are always out, and I noticed that I like the fact that they're very balanced. Like they'll go to the farmers market, and then so they're like supporting like just local, basically local, and but it makes you miss it. It does. It makes you miss it. But one of my favorite things when I lived there was driving over, from Fort Lauderdale to St. Pete to hang out. I also have a couple family members on that coast too. So it would be a great weekend, spend a little time with my queer friends, drop in, see my cousins and stuff, and head back. And one of my favorite places was Gulfport.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Gulfport.
Yeah.
Gulfport's what brought me to St. Pete. We in a former relationship, my ex and I
got him.
Actually, my ex, she doesn't like the word ex-wife. My former spouse, aka ex-wife, she actually works for me now. Like we work together, we get along great, and like they all get along. Like the wives all get along.
That's great. Okay.
But we had lived in Pennsylvania outside of Philadelphia and had together created an LGBTQ nonprofit organization and a pride event, and it's still they're celebrating their 10-year anniversary this year, which I'm super excited about.
That's
It's
great.
continuing to go, and we used to host the event in like a small park. Now it's taken over the main street in this
That's
town,
fantastic.
so it's
Yeah.
really cool. But
Yeah.
when she had retired. I like older women. Um, she had retired and come down. We were deciding on kind of doing a snowbird thing in Florida. So we actually stayed in Dunedin, Florida, which is kind of 40 minutes north of St. Pete.
Mhm.
So um, we had stayed there, and although Love the Town wasn't where we wanted to wind up, and we went downtown to St. Pete one day and just had it was right around the holidays, so it was gorgeous down by the water. And then I was like, I really want to be within 10, 15 minutes of this downtown area, wherever we live. And I was at a little market one day and met a local community person. They're like, go to Gulfport. We found a condo like immediately that night. And had the property here. I
Yes.
started coming down to Florida and I loved Florida and didn't want to leave. And it was very hard for me to go back up north. So we kind of we had different priorities where we were in our lives. I was growing
Yeah.
a business, she was retiring, and it just didn't make sense. And then she got bored with retirement, so she decided to start working with me again.
That's funny.
Kind of what
It's
happened.
perfect though, honestly. It's
Yeah.
a way for her to also keep a foot in the community, and that's one of the things I love about Wilton Manors is the way they embrace their queer elders, like
Mhm.
Yes.
honestly,
Yeah.
the housing, the events, the coffee and conversation at the Pride Center once a week, they get them out. They're active. It's a thriving community. The older group, and I'm like, wow,
When
you
I
know,
was when we were walking around after 9, looking for a place, there were so many older people, mostly men, walking their dogs. Like, and I'm like, look at this. This is like such a cool. It used to be kind of empty. There wasn't a lot going on in Wilton Manors as far as people living there, and how it changed over the last 10 years is just
oh yeah,
so
yeah,
amazing to
yeah.
see. And so what's happening this week with the women, I think, is so needed because I think we usually think about Wilton Manors more as a men's playground, right,
Yeah,
Denise? I mean,
yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
but so I asked Bernadette, who owns Art Frenzy, what was happening like on Saturday night. She said, "Oh, you should have come over there. We had 100 women with an after party. So there are after parties going on that
Yeah.
I didn't know about because we just like went that night. But um, what I wanted to ask you, Rachel, is do you create the events or do you pop up where they're having like a Pride Week or where they're having some kind of a celebration, like like a festival? Do you pop up a comedy event within that, or do you create the event in a place where something's not happening?
Well, I go both ways. So both. So
Good for you.
yeah, I mean, I look obviously if there's an opportunity and there's a crowd of people coming to an area that maybe are new to me or we just, I haven't hosted anything in that area. This is the first event I'm doing really outside of St. Pete, and I'm excited about that. I did host an event in Orlando that was a little different, but I will either like host an event and invite people to it or piggyback on something else going on. But this has been great and honestly a little bit easier to promote. Usually when I host my own event, we're doing all the promotion and we're getting all, spreading the word because, in a place like I imagine like Wilton Manors, but especially like St. Pete, we have LGBTQ events going on all the time and events for women all the time. So we don't really need to have a special event for me to host something because we're always here. It's
Yeah,
just a matter of, getting new people into these spaces. So a mix of both. I'm really excited there to work with Wilton Manors. Lally and Diana have been doing everything they can to really spread the word about our show. I'm literally, my phone is like going crazy because every time a ticket is ordered, I get a notification. So they're popping already this morning. They were
yeah.
popping all day yesterday. I think alone yesterday we sold like 30 tickets, which it's always the last minute, purchases. So I think we're going to have a nice crowded venue but we have a VIP reception in the beginning. So for people buying VIP, we're doing a wine and cheese thing before the show. So, but yeah, a mix of both. I've been at the Tampa Improv, the Wilton Manors now, and the Orlando Improv, kind of different events in those spaces.
I guarantee you're gonna come away with so many contacts and connections.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, after your show.
Yeah, I'm excited. And the parties that we do, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Denise.
Yeah, the networking down there is incredible.
Yeah, and you know what Lauderdale's, what I love about the Lauderdale community, like Diane and Lally both stepped in and as soon as we met, we hit it off, and they immediately started connecting me with other people. And I think part of that is that, I mean, they're only a little bit older than me. They only have, I would say, a few years on me, but I think what I've noticed is that the older lesbian community is very quick to help support the younger lesbian community.
Yes, thriving always. Yeah,
because they want to see things continue, mostly because they don't want to plan their own events forever, and so it's nice to have other people step in. Yeah. But like in St. Pete area, I'm actually more of the average age. Like there are older women, but we also have a younger demographic. And it's just different. They communicate differently. We have a couple of younger Sapphic groups here. We have a group called Queer Expressions. We have another one called Dyke Night. And they do amazing stuff in this area. There's even a new newsletter popping up called the Sapphic Sun. They do amazing stuff around here, but it's very different communicating with Gen Z versus communicating with your millennials and Gen X and baby boomers. And so learning that and really kind of navigating that so we can bring everyone together has definitely been eye-opening for sure.
Yeah, like it's definitely two different marketing angles,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the thing of it is when you grind it all down, it's women supporting women, whether they're young or old or whatever. But yeah, you have to approach a marketing campaign a little differently, and the events themselves maybe a little bit differently. But I mean, I think, the important thing is women are coming out. Like, I remember gay men used to dog on us so bad, that we were nesters and we were always home.
Oh, right.
We didn't want, we were the ones that like wanted families and everything. And then we didn't have a lot of disposable income to do that kind of stuff and everything. And I think there's been like a little bit of a shift, where we will come out for the right things. Things that we want to do and the things that we're passionate about. And I do think that wave of, it's not like a shaming thing, but when women supporting women became like a bigger deal, I think it just opened a lot more eyes. And it was like, maybe you didn't want to get out of your sweatpants and put on a nice pair of jeans and go out and do it, but you were doing it because you wanted to be supportive. You wanted to show up. And I think that's what's happening, is that we want to show up now. We're out there, we want to do it. And it's been great to see. And it is people, like the girls from Skirt magazine that are jumping in and pulling us out and showing us it can be done. So like I said, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised.
Well, I was surprised that everyone, even though it was early, everything has been selling out. Like I said before, everything, almost every event, because I'll look and I'll be like, oh, I want to go to this. And it's like, it's sold out. But that's really great, because to me, that was showing that the women are going out and they do want places to go and events to happen. And when I saw the comedy night, you don't see a lot of that happening for women. So that was really unique. In fact, I better get my tickets, because I get them at the door, but I think I'll get them when
these are gone, man. Like one of the things I've noticed is that a lot of events have turned towards being ticketed events.
Yes. Because a lot of the venues
reasons. Like when I moved here to London, I had never heard of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Having to have a ticket to go to a lesbian social event or whatever it was. It was just like, well, gee. And it actually made a lot of sense when I gave it thought and started kind of stopped poo-pooing it. But like, it does force you to go, because now you've paid the money. and you can't change your mind at the last minute.
Mhm.
But it also, it kind of gives the promoter or the director or whatever of the event an idea of what to expect,
Yes.
and what to plan for, and it makes more sense. Like if they didn't get a good turnout, then they market it differently for the next time or whatever, and I think it just helps them forecast, the next event and that kind of thing. So now I kind of get it, but gone are the days where you could just rock up and stroll in and see what's going on, and
Well,
it's
there's,
like
and
that,
I think, and I think there's a mix of that. When the event we're hosting later this year in St. Pete, we're doing a week of different events. Some events are ticketed, some events are not ticketed. Like our opening party is not going to be ticketed. And it really depends on how the event's set up. So with that week-long event, there are events that I/LuvHer Events are hosting where we are an event promoter. So for us to make money, we either have to sell tickets or get sponsors or
Sure.
both,
Yeah.
which is usually what we do. So like even the comedy show, we're very blessed that the Florida Keys, the destination stepped up, and they're sponsoring our comedy night in Lauderdale in Wilton tomorrow. So that was really cool to have them step up and say, hey, we are super LGBT supportive. We want women in Key West, and so we're going to come up to Lauderdale to promote that. So I wanted to give them a shout out, especially.
Yeah.
But I think other events, when we work with a bar or a venue, and the goal is just to create events, and we're not, trying to make money off of it. We just want to create a space. So that week, there are some events we'll host to make money, because obviously, if I'm spending a lot of time planning a week-long event, I need to make a little money, doing it.
Sure. Yeah.
But then going out and reaching out to some, like we have a lesbian owned restaurant bar here that's super popular called Salty Nun in St. Pete. And so I said, hey, do you want to host an opening party? It makes sense, it's lesbian owned. So, I want them to make money. I don't have any skin in that game. Like this is all about them creating something for women and being part of the bigger event. And
Yeah.
those events obviously are easier where there's no ticket charge, because you're going to buy food and drink at the venue and they get
Right.
supported that way. So,
and you're kind of promoting the rest of the week-long events,
yeah,
that people will buy tickets for. So that makes like total
yeah.
sense.
So it's like Pandora, like if Pandora hosts an event, I know Chicago, there's the Lesbian Social Club. They do a lot of events and they've been popping up other places too.
Yeah.
There has to be a ticket or they don't make money because they've got to cover their venue costs. Because
Yeah.
usually there's some kind of rental fee involved. So, and
Yeah.
it does help us plan for our show tomorrow. I think we only have a handful of VIP tickets left. Once those are gone, they're gone. But then we
Done
still.
that, JD.
I'm thinking I'm gonna go there with my my iPhone, my selfie stick, and like do some in the mix live interviews
Look,
and
team
stuff.
up, man. This
Yeah,
is all about connections. You got to
live
right here.
mingling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally want to do, like I'm thinking about that now. I'm totally gonna do that.
Well, then you're
Um,
gonna need a ticket
I'm gonna need the ticket and the VIP ticket on
and the
top of that.
VIP ticket. That's right.
But I think
I think we have
about-
like 10. Feel like last time I looked, we had about 10 VIP tickets left. And
Oh my God, I'm gonna close this
those will
meeting
go
out.
fast.
I'm gonna
I'm
close
on
this meeting out, and you're gonna buy a ticket.
I'm on it when we're done. I think too, a lot of the venues or many of the venues are small in Wilton Manors. So maybe that's why also I was thinking it needs to be ticketed because they can't, and it's nice to see they're filling to capacity, that they are selling out.
Yeah.
There are that many women that are interested. Like Bernadette said, there were 100 women at that party, that after party.
I believe
And I
it.
was thinking, I wish I knew, because
We-
there was a place to go to afterwards. So
Yeah.
And some of the events we've done in St. Pete, and the reason, kind of back to your ticketed, some of the venues, we've worked with venues, especially when we started hosting pop-up parties. And my pop-up parties, the comedy show we call LickHer Laughs, the pop-up parties we call LickHer Pops. The company is called LuvHer Events, just from a politically correct way to promote on my link. Like if I put LickHer Pops on my resume, it just has a different ring to it. So we call it LuvHer Events as the general brand name. But yeah, so we host these pop-up parties, and we hosted one. It made local news because it was the first LickHer Pop we had hosted, and the comments, because of the name of the pop-up, created more hype about the event. So again, going back, like kind of the no no news is bad news. Like it's all
Right.
good.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Help.
Bad
Yeah.
publicity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we wound up, I'm glad we sold tickets because what we wound up doing is we had a line out the door. I mean, we had 250 women come through that night and we had 300 show up and we had to turn away a handful because of fire code.
Right.
And usually, and the difference between, I find, between men events and women events, women are really looking for connection. And if there's opportunities for that, beyond just loud music and dancing and, you know, trying to find, we'll call it a date. Women really want to communicate and have conversation. So any event we've ever done, we've always had a quieter space where women can talk and connect and enjoy company, and then the space for entertainment. And what I found when we do that is women stay around all night. They
Oh,
will hang,
definitely.
especially if it's at a reasonable hour. So like most of
Yeah.
the parties that I do are from like 5 to 10, especially in this area because I know the younger generation is just, we definitely attract. I'll be 45 this year. We attract kind of my average age and a little older.
Mhm.
So, most of us, even at 45, I want to be in bed by 10. I'm not one to be up until 1. If I'm up until 1, I'm curled up on the sofa with my dog, like scrolling social and planning my next day.
Yeah.
So, I think that I'm just excited to be there and have a different vibe, and
I think it's super important. Like,
comedy thing is kind of a fun way to, people want to laugh. We need to laugh
yeah,
right now. Life
laugh
is
and
Totally.
mingle and
heavy.
everything, like all that stuff's so important. Like I'm at that age where like this is so funny. This is when JD, you'll appreciate this. This thought hit me the day that we were meeting up at Tap 42 and you were running late.
Yeah.
And
How unusual for me.
not unusual, but I'm sitting in this restaurant and they have like music on the speakers and they've got 5 TVs. And I'm like, I can't even hear my own thoughts. You know what I mean? Like I'm at that age now where I'm hyper aware of that, whereas it wouldn't have bothered me 10, 15 years ago. But like
Yeah.
I knew you were coming, I knew we were going to be eating and talking and catching up. And all I kept thinking is like, oh my God, I can't formulate a thought. I can't even hear myself think. And it's a perfect thing to have an event where you can drink and dance and have your fun or whatever. But when you want to have a conversation with someone and you're not screaming in their face so that they can hear you,
Right.
spot
Right.
for that, and it's not like, something that's so ridiculously obvious or anything. It just feels right to go sit somewhere and have a conversation and dip in and out of the other
Right.
space, So
The clubs with the thump of music that you can't hear yourself talk.
I mean, I grew up battling anxiety. That's always been my challenge, and ADHD. So for me and the work that we do in the tourism space, I'm very mindful of accessibility, both from a physical accessibility standpoint, but also from a neurodivergent and hidden disability standpoint. So when I plan events, I want to make sure that everyone feels safe and welcome, and people who have anxiety or people who are overstimulated or
just
have
old and cranky.
or old and cranky, or like my wife, my I want to say my current wife, but that sounds like there's a future with
Presents.
my wife,
Right.
my forever wife. She has a hard time hearing in one of her ears. So when we go out and people try to talk to her in these noisy spaces,
Gotta
she
do that,
looks,
like the right
I,
that way.
yeah, well, not only
Cool.
that, but she like looks stone cold and she doesn't respond. And she's the type of person you can read her face really well. I'm the warm, friendly, bubbly. She's more of the protecting her space until she trusts you kind of person. So if
Right.
she can't hear what you're saying, like she comes across as an asshole and it's not intended. She just can't
Right.
hear what you're saying.
And I totally get that, especially
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I got an 80% hearing loss in one ear. And my wife and I were meeting up with the gay boys, and we were having like dinner, and one of them has a little bit of hearing loss and he has a very thick British accent. So when we left that dinner, and the other one is American, so I have no problem because he's loud and obnoxious like me. when we left that place, I just looked at my wife and I said, did you know, like, did my face show that I didn't get one thing that Dan said? Like, not one thing. And she goes, oh, I knew. I'm like, it's just a thing. Like, it's an actual thing. And like JD, when we have Horse on, who's like,
Yeah, I cannot understand a
yeah, she's
Scott
a Scottish
accent.
singer. So she's got the Scottish brogue and she's,
Heavy.
I struggle. So the first time I met her in a green room before a concert that I was emceeing, I just felt like I spent the whole time just like nodding because I couldn't even add anything to it. So I 100% get where your wife is coming from. Like it's just, and it's not that you're being an asshole, it's that you're really struggling. You know,
Yeah.
I think my face shows me trying to process it and compute it.
Um,
And then on top of that, I'm like leaning in with my good ear, which makes it even more weird. So
or she's standing there thinking, I wish I were fishing right now. And that's where her brain is.
my wife
But
would say,
we
yeah,
just,
I wish I was
and for
playing
me,
PlayStation. Yeah.
and for me, I like, I was in Vegas, super overstimulating, constant overstimulation in Vegas, right? And I got dressed up one night, went out to the club where they were hosting this big party. And what I liked about the venue where we were at, yes, I was on a table dancing, and there's pictures to prove it. But there was also like an outdoor calm pool area that I could just stand out and have a real conversation. And those spaces mean that I'm going to stick around longer because I can have my overstimulating moment and then I can like walk over and have my
Yes.
calmer moment. And that's really what I like to create with our events too. I don't want to be in a crowded space where people are all in my face and getting loud and sweaty. And that's just not my thing.
Yeah. It's like I don't want to be at the diner for 5 hours. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I want exactly what you're describing. Like it's just how did it take us so long to get here? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like to understand that that's what's needed. You know, I'm so impressed with the fact that you recognize it
It's
and that
finally
a
happening.
priority. It's a priority now, like
That's how I feel. I feel
yeah,
like it's finally happening, because when
yeah,
I was coming out, because I came out so late in life, I didn't know where to go. Like there was nowhere to go to meet people. And
yeah,
now, if I were now coming out, there are all these things happening, like what you're doing, Rachel.
yeah. It's a matter of making people feel comfortable.
I
And
JD,
want
do
to,
you want us to have like a second coming out party for you?
yeah,
we really
I need
should.
that. I
We
need
really
to just
should.
have a whole new, yes, revelation.
A rebirth as a lesbian.
A
Like I
re
just remember like calling ourselves like the over 40 fatties. And
ah,
like we just didn't fit in with like the LA type. Like
Mhm.
I spent 4 days in LA and I've never felt more unseen in my life. Like it was just, like I just like kept looking at my old show co-host and we were both big girls and it was just like this was the worst feeling ever. Like I didn't feel like that when I was with my people.
yeah.
But
Fun.
that was
But
becoming
you guys
harder.
kind of had a thing, like you were a presence, I thought. Like I don't think people looked at you that way. Like you guys had your thing. You were the girls from the lesbian lounge. And like I think
But big
people
fish, little pond. You know what I mean? Like that
true,
we
true,
felt comfortable. It was not like
true, I guess. Yeah.
outside of that, it wasn't, like it wasn't like that. Like we would have never gone to the diner, even if they rolled out the red carpet, which they wouldn't for
Oh, I
us.
thought you
But
went. I thought you
no,
went to it. You never went to it?
no,
Oh,
no.
I thought you went
I
to
think
one.
some of the events too. I mean, so having I've lost a lot of weight this year. I was almost 300 pounds at one point in my life too. And so having been in the world as a plus size person in those spaces, um, an event like Girls in Wonderland, although, I've never been a Dinah, that was it, I'm a little like I'm in my 40s, so I didn't come out until well, I never fully came out. I'm kind of like halfway out. But I, I, you know, I
It's like,
I never went to Dinah, but Girls in Wonderland, they do a great event, and I'm seeing more and more diversity in size and
Yeah,
culture and everything, which is great. I'm glad they're reaching different demographics.
yeah.
But I'm not. I've never been in a bikini. Yesterday, I posted a thing the other day on social. Like it was the first time, and I honestly didn't even have a bikini top because I don't own one. But I had my bra on, and it was hot out, and I'm like, screw it. I'm taking my shirt off, and I'm just gonna wear my bra around the beach. And it felt so freeing, but I had never done that before. So spaces like you're talking about, I would have never felt comfortable
Right.
really bringing
Exactly it.
my full self there. Like my full self as an LGBTQ person, maybe, yes, 100%. I bring that everywhere. But my full self as a plus size person, sometimes it has been very
It's hard.
eye-opening, and
Yeah, it was hard.
trying to own that now. And even as a smaller person, I'm a very healthy weight now, but I've got a lot of skin now. So like even in those spaces,
Yeah.
and you see these women that have like tight stomachs. I mean, until I get surgery, that's not an option. So,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I
No,
think we
it's
all just
true.
need to own our bodies. And I do think, kind of alluding to what JD said, that sometimes it really is about how you show up in those spaces and
Yes,
your mindset going in, because I think we are often limiting our own selves. I don't think anyone would have cared if I had been on on the beach with a
right,
bikini
No,
top,
probably
50
not.
pounds heavier.
Right.
I cared. It was my issue. It
right.
wasn't
Right.
their
Exactly.
issue.
Yeah. For us,
So
it was
what
like,
I
I think
noticed,
like 2006, it was a different time, like when we were
Mhm.
yeah,
in with the
true.
Lesbian Lounge in 2008, 2009, it was a different time. And now that, like I said, women supporting women, it's all encompassing. It's not just about the events or the businesses or the successes. It's also about accepting, women for whether they're a trans woman or, a big woman or whatever. Like we've just become a more accepting, community. Whereas before, like that's what we were striving for, is we would have the girls at Gay Days events separate from the girls at Wonderland, because there were a lot of girls that came to our events that would never feel comfortable at a girls
Yeah,
at Wonderland event, because they wanted to be in their cargo shorts with their
right.
perfectly packed coolers and their baseball hats on backwards and their care binder full of keys and their chubby little bodies in their tank tops at the pool, in their t-shirts in the pool, and feel okay with it. And we wanted them to. So in our own weird way, we were creating this accepting place for them so they could still be a part of Gay Days in general, or whatever event we were doing. Women Fest was another one in Key West.
Yeah.
Our events were very different than the other events that were going on at the
I
time.
love that event. I go to Key West Women Fest. I've been going the last 2, 3
Oh
years.
my God, we
Love
hosted
that
5
event. I
years in a
love
row.
that. I
Yeah,
love the women that show up. They're real, authentic. Like it's not
yes,
pretentious.
yeah,
And the age ranges are nice. It's kind of a broad age range. And um,
yeah. And the
the older I
community,
get, the more I realize I fit into these spaces.
You know
right?
what?
But
I
the
think in
committee
our
was so good
community,
too.
yeah,
The,
I think
the
in
committee
the,
down there was fantastic.
Yeah.
Rebecca and whoever else was on the board of doing Women Fest, had enough events to that everybody felt welcome,
Yeah.
So yeah, they were perfect.
but I always felt in the lesbian community that women were accepted of all ages and all sizes. Like when I did come out, like I was super um, because of being in the music industry and trying to make it and in music, I always felt my age was such a thing because I didn't start until I was over 30. And you have to be 15 now to start, right? In the
Yeah.
industry. So I always felt so like age, like I had to be like hide my age or whatever. And but when I started playing at the Pride Fest and I started playing in the gay community, I didn't care anymore about my age or telling people how old I am because it didn't matter anymore. And I think there are a lot of, like what you said, Rachel, before, there's a lot of younger lesbians that like older women.
Of course.
Mhm.
They're just like into older women. And I think it's because maybe they see the wisdom or you've established yourself. And I wanted to say before that across the board, though, in general, I've noticed because I go to a lot of theater that the girls on stage are not always a size two. Like they have dancers that are actually chunky
Mhm.
in that lineup of dancers in these plays, like at Broward Center and like the big ones, Kravis Center, like the bigger stages. They're not just casting the skinny little girls that are
Yeah.
dancing and
It's a
being in the
different time.
show.
It's an
It's a
absolutely different
and
time.
they're in shorts and they're
Yeah.
in like skimpy outfits, but they're bigger girls. And it's really nice to see that. I'll
Yep.
go to my niece, we go to the shows a lot together. I'll be like that girl is like like so not a size 2, and look, she's just in there dancing and singing and part of the show, and it's nice. It's really nice to see that
Yeah,
that's changed.
it's a such a different time now, and it's lovely to see, and it's it's diversity is a big, broad blanket. It's not just about our community.
Right.
It is the entertainment industry. It is the magazines and it is the social media and the influencers and everything. So it's showing like that there's, diversity everywhere that's what we always wanted, and it's like it's arrived, and the least we can do is support it, even if we have to buy a ticket and we're forced to go. We're forced to get out of our sweatpants,
And I think the other thing too, I mean, obviously we're dealing with interesting political times, and in Florida, a whole different level of political times, but I still think the country as a whole, the people in the country have become more accepting on LGBTQ couples, especially the LGB. I think the trans topic is a different topic
Oh,
for
totally.
that. But I think, again, as a traveler, if I'm traveling solo, especially, my wife is extremely masculine. Like she gets called sir all the time. She looks masculine. She's had breast cancer. She's healthy, but she's had a double mastectomy, so she doesn't have boobs anymore. So like there's definitely a gender identity confusion when people see her. And when we travel, they might notice her and try to figure us out. It is what it is. It doesn't bother us. As a solo traveler, my LGBTQ identity is not apparent unless you know who I am or you know what I do. The short hair is the only thing that might make people question, but a lot of people have short hair. My challenges as a traveler have always been more so dictated by my size and by my anxiety. So like when I was plus size traveling on a plane or even in these crowded spaces, I was in Vegas the other day and I went to go see the show Absinthe, which is amazing if you ever get to Vegas. It's kind of like a Cirque du Soleil meet burlesque meet raunchy comedy kind of show, and it's amazing. It's just incredible. But the seats are like sardine cans, like sitting
Yeah.
next to each other. And I sat there last week and I'm thinking, I am so glad my butt is half the size it used to be because there's no way it would have fit on this chair comfortably. I would have been like one ass cheek off the chair in my
Yeah.
former body. And I think those things are much more apparent to me than, traveling as an LGBTQ person. Like I love finding community and I think there's spaces to find that for the most part, especially when we go to places like Wilton or St. Pete or Key West, et cetera. You can find women to hang out with. But feeling comfortable in my size at all sizes or feeling comfortable in a space where if I need to disconnect because my anxiety is a little on edge or my ADHD is overstimulated, like
Yeah.
that honestly dictates more what I do than, and ADHD burnout is a real thing. And sometimes I just want to crash and be left alone for a while. So having those spaces is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's true. Like I'm like that person that always wants to book the aisle seat, for a theater event, especially in London. I mean, these places
too.
are
I
so
just don't want
old
to sit
and the
next to
seats are
somebody.
tiny. Yeah. And the
Yeah.
seats are small and, it's,
Theaters are, I remember going to a Broadway show in New York and my parents, we had gotten like budget friendly tickets. So they were on the third level. And like, I feel like the higher you go up in some of the theaters, the smaller the seats get and the smaller the leg room gets. And when
yeah.
you have, I'm very well endowed on the bottom half of my body, not so much the top. I'd like to work on that. I feel like there needs to be a system where depending on the outfit you're wearing, you can push the
Yeah, definitely.
body fat up different
Yeah.
places. But I remember sitting in these chairs, like when you have a larger derriere, you're pushed more forward on the seat, which you may not have super long legs, but it feels like you do. And so just very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so
But
I'm glad there's more
like,
spaces that are creating more
yeah.
inclusive feeling. And even in the younger, I mean, I remember going to school, I was one of three overweight kids. Now I feel like it would have been interesting to see how I grew up differently if I had been brought up in this, generation where I think size is more fluid and,
How
young
long,
girls that are plus size are just owning it.
Yeah,
how long ago
exactly.
did you lose the weight? How long
Um,
dinner?
so, so my heaviest was 2009. I lost at the time, I was verging on 300. I was about 290 at the time and lost about 130 pounds, actually went back to school, got a degree in nutrition. I was supposed to become an RD at that time, and then life got derailed. I actually had a back injury that wound up in a chronic situation, and then I wound up with chronic anxiety because of it. Pain and anxiety can very much be tied together. And I left the program, and it sounds super cheesy, but I came home that day. I quit the program. I took a piece of paper out and I wrote the happiness list. And I wrote all the things that I enjoyed doing. And it was things like bringing people together, or healthy food events, or photography, writing, art, drawing, whatever. I don't know if you've ever dealt with anxiety, but when you have debilitating anxiety, like doing one thing is like a big feat. So I literally each day would kind of look at the list and say, okay, let's draw a picture today, or let's do photography today, or whatever. But slowly but surely, I started getting out more, and I started going to an art club once a month that really, it was life changing. I met an incredible mentor there, and I started doing photography, and then I started hosting some local lesbian pop-up parties up in Pennsylvania, and I started writing, and my world changed, my life changed, and I wound up diving into the LGBTQ space. And the photography was kind of neat because when I came to St. Pete, the International Gay and Lesbian Travel Association was hosting their conference in St. Pete and happened to be missing a photographer. So I wound up being brought on as their event photographer, and that's how I got into the tourism industry. And that's why Outcoast went more travel focused and where we are today. So I'm a huge believer in you're in the right place, the right time, and things are happening for a reason. More recently, I gained a lot of my weight back because of the pain, and I was traveling. And when you travel, you eat and you drink, and weight goes on. This time, I started this more recent version of my weight loss because I had gained 100 pounds back easily. And so this time I think it was a year and a half ago, I started again, and I've lost about 110 pounds this time. So now I'm actually back finishing what I started, and I'm actually getting my RD. So I want to do more wellness tourism and corporate wellness programs, and still hosting lesbian pop-up parties. But, I'm thinking long-term job security is great to have.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's very inspiring, Rachel.
Yeah,
that's really inspiring that's a big on-taking to do that. And
thank you.
Yeah.
So this weekend, in the middle of a comedy show and doing this event, this travel content with Visit Lauderdale, it's the last weekend of school. So final projects and exams are due. So I will burn out by Tuesday, but it'll be a great weekend.
Oh my God. We're going to have to check on you. We're going to have to check on you next week. My God. Yeah.
You just have to message me, step away from the Oreos.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my God. Well, this has been absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
And I was going to say, thank you for taking time out, because obviously you've got to get on the road. You got to make it across the alley. And, and get embedded into Wilton Manors.
Yeah, I'm excited about the show. Like I said, there's some tickets left. I hope to see everybody there. And I'm really excited about, and I'm excited that Dr. Anna Lepley is going to be there, Abby Ballin, both hilarious. And ironically, Dr. Anna also is an RD. So we will inevitably talk about healthy food at some point, but you can ignore that part of the show.
I think I remember Anna. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I knew. Yeah. So really quick, just give us 3 websites right off the back: the travel one, the Outpost one, and the events one.
Yeah, absolutely. So the events for queer women, LuvHerEvents.com. The Outcoast is outcoast.com. So it's OUT and then the word coast, not cast. So it's outcoast.com. And then honestly, you can find everything if you just go to rachelcovello.com. That has all of my different brands on it and things that I'm doing. And ironically, I'm the only Rachel Covello in the world. So if you even Google my name, I'm easy to find. There's one other, but that's an obituary. So I think I'm the only one walking the earth right now as a Rachel Covello.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again for taking time out this morning in this. And JD, I will look forward to your review.
Yes, I'm gonna get people in the mix with my selfie stick I can now use and my camera.
Okay.
We're gonna
Okay.
get,
Yubi.
we're gonna have the Will Manors in the mix, in the remix.
Excellent. Ladies, thank you again.
Thank you
Bye,
guys.
Rach. We'll see you Saturday.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.